Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is a very fun video because I'm making something a little bit special, a little bit trendy, but a little bit different. Today I am going to be making a corset out of neckties, and I saw this, I think on Pinterest like a long time ago, but there's this one picture of Choice Brown wearing this beautiful like red and blue tie corset. I don't remember the name of the brand that originally makes it, but I will put it somewhere. But it's so beautiful, and I went to a thrift store and I was able to buy a bunch of ties for really cheap. I think I got them for like $1.50 each. Because ties are kind of expensive, like even at Savers they can be a little bit expensive, so I was looking to find some for a really good price. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. It was a long process, and some parts were a little bit tedious, but it was really fun, and I hope you like it. So let's go. So first things first, I have my ties, and I'm just laying them out and trying to put them in an arrangement that I enjoy, that I like visually. I don't remember how many I used exactly, but it should be enough to almost wrap all the way around your body. And you're going to make a measurement of your bust that goes kind of along the top, close to the top where the pointy edges are. And then your waist measurement can be sort of a little bit lower because we're going to cut most of the bottom of that off. So I'm just flipping the ties so that they're right sides together and sewing along the edge. I'm going to do a really small seam allowance just so I don't lose too much of the tie. And then I'll just like continue doing that all the way down with each tie. So once I've sewn my ties together and they're all connected and attached, I'm roughly cutting off the bottom so that I don't have all of that excess hanging down. And I'm giving myself a little bit more than I think I need. And then after I cut a straight line, I'm going to cut it into a shape that I like. And here I am just holding it up to my body to kind of see how far down I want it to go and where I might want to cut. I didn't really do much measuring when I did this. I kind of just held it up and tried to estimate where I was going to cut it. And there are all these lovely tags that are so cute on the back, but they were kind of itchy on my skin, so I decided to very carefully seam rip them off. So now I'm taking a tank top that I know fits me well and hits me kind of where I like at my waist. So I'm looking at the distance between the armpit and the bottom to see how far down I should be cutting the waist on my corset. And I do want it to go down a little farther in the middle of the front, but for the sides, I kind of want it to be around the same height as that crop top. So I'm just kind of planning out the shape that I want, and then I'm going to cut it and see how it goes. And also, I'm cutting it folded in half so that it's symmetrical when I open up. So I cut my corset and now I'm trying it on, and as you can see, that's really not cute. So I'm going to cut it higher. I did leave myself a lot of extra room just in case, but I do want to cut it a little bit more so that it's shorter, more cropped. So once I cut it a few more times and kind of figured out what shape I like, I'm cutting the same shape out of a lining fabric. You don't have to do this if you're not going to add boning and all that, but I wanted to add boning, so, and I wanted it to be kind of like nicer and more finished. So I made a lining, so I'm just marking those. I did 2 kind of in the front, and then 2 in the back. And I'm using a satin ribbon as my boning channel, and I just made sure that my zip ties were going to fit inside the ribbon once I sewed it on. So I'm just pinning that to my lining, and then I'm going to sew it as close to the edge of the ribbon as I can. So once I have that sewn on, I am just lining it up with my outer piece, and I'm folding it down so that it comes just below where the ties at the top are, so you won't be able to see it when I have it on. So I'm folding that in twice and sewing across to finish that seam. And there it is, all nice and flat and clean. Very cute. And that'll close the top of the boning channels as well. So now that I have my lining all nice and finished on the edges that you'll be able to see, I'm going to sew it to my corset. So now I'm attaching my lining to the corset. I'm hand sewing it to the inside seam allowance of my ties because I don't want to be able to see the stitches on the outside. So once that's attached, I'm measuring how long my zip ties have to be and just cutting it a little bit above the edge so that I have some room for seam allowance so I can sew the bottom edge on. And I made the mistake of not filing down the edges of my zip ties before I closed them in there, and now when I wear it they kind of poke me. So I would highly recommend softening the edges so that they don't stab you later. So now I'm trying it on again to see how much room I have in the back, and you do want to leave a little bit space in the back so that you can see the laces nicely when you finish it. So now what I'm doing is I'm making bias tape out of my lining fabric. I did have extra, so I was able to do this. My original plan was to use the satin ribbon as bias tape, but it wasn't nearly wide enough. So I made my own bias tape, which is super easy. You just have to cut your fabric diagonal to the grain. I'll link a video that explains how to do it. And then I'm clipping my bias tape to the bottom edge of my corset, and I'm gonna close that off, and my zip ties are already in there. So I opened it up and put the right side to right side on the front of my corset. Now I'm just trimming the bottom inside where I'm going to fold it over because it's a little bit bulky. It'll make it easier to fold over and sew shut. And then I'm folding my bias tape to the inside, and this part I'm going to hand sew because I don't want the stitches to show up on the other side. I know there's a way to do this that's easier, but I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm doing it by hand. This took me forever, but I think it was worth it because the inside looks really nice. And now I'm kind of changing the shape of the back because if you remember from the clip before when I tried it on, the back kind of came to a point at the top, which is the opposite of how corsets normally work. They usually are open wider at the top and closer together at the bottom, but because of the way that the ties are shaped and the way that my body is shaped, it kind of was the opposite of that. So I am adjusting the shape of the back so that it's more straight up and down, or more like a V than an A. So I'm just making a line from the bottom corner to the tip of that last tie. And I'm basting those layers together because I don't really know what's inside the tie and I don't want it to fall apart when I cut it. So I'm drawing that line. So I'm carefully cutting from the bottom corner to the tip of that last tie. I'm trying to make that cut as straight as possible. And then I repeated that on the other side so they would be symmetrical. And then I'm using the same technique that I did on the bottom with the bias tape on the back edges. So I'm opening it up all the way and clipping it, and then machine sewing in the first fold, then trimming the excess on the edge of the inside, and then folding it over and hand sewing it. So once that's done and all of my edges are finished and closed and they look nice, I am marking where I want to put my grommets, my eyelets, And I got a pack with 14, so I'm doing 7 on each side, and I'm just trying to measure them so that they're spaced out evenly. And I'm marking that with a pencil. And then I'm using a seam ripper to poke the initial hole, and then I ended up using scissors to kind of widen it a little bit so that I could get through all of the layers. And then you poke one side through, and you put the other side on top, and it comes with this thing that you lay it on and a thing to put on top, and then you hammer it, and it flattens it, and it becomes like a nice little smooth eyelet that you can put stuff through, like ribbons. So I just repeated that until I had all of my eyelets in, and then it was time to thread my ribbon through. And this is the same ribbon that I used to do the boning channels, but you can use whatever you want, a ribbon, a string, shoelace, whatever, you know. So I'm just cutting the edge of the ribbon on a diagonal, and then I kind of burned it to melt it so that it wouldn't fray. If you're going to do this, be very, very careful because some ribbons will catch on fire. So I'm just lacing it up, and I chose to put the bow at the bottom. I'm not sure which way is the normal way to do it, but I put my bow at the bottom, but you can put your bow at the top, lace it however you want, you know. And that's it. So here's the final product. I really love how it turned out. I think it's so fancy looking, and I don't really know where I'm gonna wear it, but now I have it, and hopefully you enjoyed this. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want to see more like this from me. I had a really good time making it, and I hope that you like it. Let me know if you try it. It's a lot, but I think you could do it. Okay, thanks for watching. Love you. Bye!